A man who doesn't draw boundaries in a relationship doesn't keep it, he just slowly disappears inside of it. Drawing boundaries isn't about control, it's about clarity. Now, let me explain what I mean. Most men confuse boundaries with ultimatums. Ultimatums sound like if you go out with your friends tonight, we're done. If you wear that dress, we're done. That's fear-based. It's rooted in insecurity. It's just not healthy. And it's not rooted in self-respect either. It's just reactive to her decisions. She should know that if she crosses one of your boundaries, it's over. And she should know what those boundaries are. That's part of the dating process, part of the relationship. And by the way, this is why women push boundaries, because they need to know where they can go inside of the realm that we operate in inside of this relationship. Boundaries aren't about managing her choices, they're more about owning your response to them. You're not gonna tell her, you can't do this, you're gonna tell her, if you do this, we're not gonna work out. If you do that, then we're no longer gonna be in a relationship. That's not control, that's clarity. Boundaries tell her, this is who I am, this is what I accept, and this is how I move. They're not threats, they're frameworks, all right? They're lines in the sand that you draw. They're the boundaries that she can operate inside of that relationship freely and totally without you losing your cool. That's how you protect your peace, your energy, and yeah, obviously the relationship itself. And most importantly, they're not meant to scare her or to control her. They're meant to stabilize the dynamic that you guys have going on. In other words, you know that if you are stupid enough to let your girlfriend go down to Miami for spring break, there's a very high chance that your relationship is not gonna last that. Because regardless of what a woman tells you, get enough alcohol in her in the right setting, and she's gonna cheat on you, bro. And I promise you, it's better to be considered too controlling in a relationship than to be that guy who was stupid enough to let his girlfriend fly all the way to Miami on somebody else's dime, assuming it was her girlfriend's, just to have some fun. My guy, if she wanted to have fun, she'd have brought you with her. If she didn't think you were fun to be with, she wouldn't be with you. And again, you're not trying to necessarily dominate her in an unkinky way. You're trying to stop abandoning yourself, your morals, and what you believe in. Here's what I mean by that, because it's very important that people understand this. Man no longer has morals. We just have spiritual preferences. These are the things that I would like to consider myself until something better comes along. For instance, a lot of people like to say they're vegan until they see a really good looking cheeseburger and they're really hungry for lunch and they're not gonna eat nothing. You see what I mean? Their morals go out the window when they're presented with a bigger, better choice, or they feel forced to choose something they don't actually want. Now, that's necessary to understand because your boundaries as a man stem from these ideas. They stem from your moral compass. They stem from your spiritual preferences, if you will. And what I typically find from the average man is that we no longer have them. It's simply what we can do. That's it. For instance, if you were allowed to legally burn down your neighbor's house, there's a lot of us that would do it. Regardless of why, what prevents us from doing that is simply the fact that it's illegal. We'd get in trouble for it. That's it. That's not a spiritual preference, right? That's not morality. That is, I will do whatever I can do because I'm allowed to do it. You can't operate a healthy relationship like that because you don't have a moral compass, little bro. Your moral compass is whatever is legal. Because whatever is legal is fair game to you, man. It does not matter what it is. And unfortunately, the average man does not know how to draw boundaries because those boundaries draw from your own moral compass. And without a moral compass, you can't say, no, I'm not okay with us doing this. Women will test the boundaries that you draw every single time, but it's not a bad thing. Women test them, not to destroy them, but to test you, your confidence, and your masculinity. See, they want to feel that safety inside of the relationship with you. And that's why often you hear women say, I don't trust you or I don't feel safe with you, which are pretty much the same thing. And this testing is subconscious. She may not even know that she's doing it or why, but she knows instinctually, I've got to push this guy's buttons because if I can push this guy's buttons and cause him to just lose his frame, to lose his mind, to lose his temper, then that man is so weak that a 110-pound woman can get him so riled up and so off-centered that I won't be able to trust him with anything. Because when you're out with him and some guy thinks he's gonna pop off and disrespect you, you're just gonna let him. You're gonna rationalize it in your head like, yeah, well, I don't really wanna catch a night in jail or anything. I should pause here. I'm not telling you to do anything illegal because I'm not allowed to. But hypothetically, if a man were to pop off to me or my girlfriend while we were out, I would not consider it to be the worst thing in the world to spend a night in jail over it. That is my preference. Stronger than most of your convictions. If you crumble under her little tests, she will lose trust in you. Not because she's trying to be cruel, but because she can't trust your masculine leadership. And again, if she, a little girl, could push you so easily off center, then she can't trust you out in the world to do anything. That's why it's so unattractive. And men, we feel like whenever she pushes our buttons, we could easily destroy her self-confidence. I mean, physically dominate her, obviously. And we know that, so we tend to treat a woman kind of like a fragile thing, but you can't. Like, there's a line there where you've got to let her know who the daddy is. I don't know if I said that right because I didn't really mean that in a kinky way. See, a boundary isn't just for her benefit, it's for yours as well. It lets you both know what type of man you are, it'll reveal what type of woman she is, and it'll help control and nurture the relationship that can grow inside of those boundaries. So let's contrast it like this. Control says if you do this, we're done. It says change for me or else. But a boundary says this is who I am. This is the relationship that we're going to be in. And if that doesn't align, call me Christopher because I'm walking. Terrible joke. That is a terrible joke. I'm not putting that in. It's calm. It's grounded. It's masculine. It lets her know exactly who you are without bending frame. You're not drawing boundaries to control her. You're drawing them to protect your own freedom and to enable that relationship to grow inside of them. And the men that lead with that kind of calm strength are the men that women want to follow. That's how you take charge in your relationship. Let's get into the cost of being passive. Every time you let something slip, especially disrespectful actions or words, you're trading respect for peace. And you think as a man that you're noble for that it's somehow a good thing, that you're not going to call her out on her mouth in the middle of Walmart because she just mouthed off to you about needing groceries or whatever the hell she about. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. You think that because you're out in public and she starts to become disrespectful to you, to talk to you in a disrespectful tone, that you're not going to say anything because you're in public and you're a good guy. My dude, that is going to lead to so much more disrespect in the future. And she knows when she can do it too. That's also why she'll be incredibly disrespectful to you inside of certain circumstances or places, but in others she won't, because you'll call her out over here, but you won't over here. She's got to know there is no place on this planet, I don't care if it's in the middle of a church, Walmart, or a bathroom, you ever talk to me like that, and we're gonna have problems. And by the way, let me give you the actual line I use every single time. And it's funny because this is the same line I use on kids, okay? When a woman is becoming disrespectful to me, I motion for her to come here, come closer, because I'm not gonna yell. I say, look, I love you, I respect you, but you will not talk to me like this again. Do you understand me? If their response is anything other than submissiveness, calmness, maturity, any sort of combination of those, you don't get mad, you just leave. Now look, if you are in a relationship, if that's your wife, I would pay for an Uber for her home. If she does not take that, that's on her. I would never tolerate that. And I'm telling you right now, you call it out immediately. You never let a woman do that, because if you let it go one time, guess what? There's going to be a second time. She has to actually fear that if she mouths off to you in a disrespectful manner, that could lead to the end of that relationship. Now, there's a huge difference here between having her speak her mind and letting her speak her feelings without her being disrespectful, because there's a huge difference, and she knows it. If she doesn't know it, hey, guess whose job it is to draw boundaries? You got it. You think that by being passive, you're keeping her, you're keeping the peace. But what you're really doing is teaching her that your needs don't matter, or at least come second to hers. When you don't speak up, you eventually lose that girl. You think you're going to keep her long term, but it's not. It's a short-term strategy just to keep her appeased, to keep her quiet, to keep her happy. But you just lose yourself and that relationship quietly. It's death by 1,000 cuts, man. And over time, she starts to feel less safe with you because you're not drawing and keeping those boundaries. She doesn't know where she even operates inside of that relationship. She doesn't know where to go or what to do. You're not leading like a man. All right, here's the cake of the video. How to actually set boundaries like a man. Number one is to know your line. If you don't know what you stand for, again, this goes back to your moral compass. She will walk all over you. She will push you anywhere she wants because you don't actually have a moral compass. You don't actually have a rule for your life that you're governed by in a specific situation. And if you don't know what you believe, what you think, then you can't draw a boundary because your boundaries are just whatever you can get away with. So that means if you can cheat, you're going to cheat. And when you draw boundaries with her, they're going to be so weak that she knows how to cheat within those boundaries. And when you draw your boundaries with her, or you attempt to, they're going to be so weak that she knows exactly the little crevices she can slip right through and cheat on you. Those look like, oh, I didn't sleep with him. We just talk every single day and, maybe chat on the phone or video chat for a while. We've been doing this for months. What are you talking about? That's not cheating. I'm just talking to him. Those are weak men who do not know how to draw a boundary. She should know. She should fear that replying to another man who obviously wants her, which, she's not going to tell herself that because then she would have to admit that she might be an actual cheater. She should know that if she's entertaining other guys, other men in any way, shape, or form, that she is risking that entire relationship. And yes, some women will still do this, but the point is you drew that boundary, you drew that hard line, and you're almost daring her to cross it. So step number one is to know your line. Know your boundaries by knowing your moral compass. Step number two is that you say it calmly, and I've already gone over this. You don't need to yell, and you certainly don't need to name call. Name calling is one of those things that only immature people do. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a bit immature myself because name calling is really fun sometimes, especially when you got a really good one. And I shouldn't tell you that, but that's the truth, okay? And I mean that outside of relationship too, with my brothers or sisters or friends or even people that I'm actually going to get into a physical altercation with. But especially when it comes to your partner, calling them names will not be forgotten, even if they forgive you. They're going to remember the name that you called them. Rule of thumb, inside the bedroom, great. Outside the bedroom, not so great. Think of it like this. When you are setting boundaries, you can say them calmly, sternly, without raising your voice, because it's not about volume, it's about certainty. You are letting her know that how she's acting is not appropriate. She's not going to keep talking to you like this. And step number three should be obvious. You mean it. You do not redraw a boundary. If you say you will not tolerate disrespect and she disrespects you, there's got to be consequences for that. And the consequences simply can be, usually are, you withdrawing from that relationship. Think of it like this. A weak man will set rules. A strong man sets standards. And if your woman does not match your standards, then you both know what to do. And yeah, it's got to be said that people change for relationships. If you're healthy, there's going to be a part of you that changes for your wife. And you change roles, you change hats depending on the relationship that you're in. In other words, you're a different person to your mother and father than you are to your brother and sisters. You're a different person to your coworkers than you are to your partner. All of those things are okay. All of those things are healthy. But people don't really deviate too much from who they truly are, even if they wear different hats. That's why it's so important to have standards, because they enable others to know how to treat you across all kinds of different dynamics. Let me sum it all up like this. You don't draw boundaries to push her away. You draw them to protect yourself and the relationship. Because when you speak from calm certainty, like a man should, you stop attracting chaos from her and you start attracting a woman who actually wants a man with a spine. Lil bro, you've got this. I've got you, and I'll see you in the next one.